Alright guys, so today we're going to check out the Simgot Shark EW100P. Now this is a pair of IEMs that only comes in retailing at $19. And on their site, it's actually even considering these or labeled these as an entry-level IEM. And in my opinion, I think it's only labeled as entry-level because of its price. So we're going to talk about a lot of this. We're going to talk about the sound. We're going to talk about what all comes inside the box. And we're pretty much going to see why I think this is a hell of a bargain coming in at $19. So the first thing I want to point out is this pair is high-res audio certified. So it's gone through the certification process to be able to get this label slapped on its box. It is using 10mm dual cavity dynamic drivers with LCP diaphragms. Now this is something you normally see in more expensive IEMs. There's so many different drivers and so many different options when it comes to IEMs. I know it can be overwhelming. It can even be overwhelming because of the amount of selection of IEMs that are out there. So if you're new to trying out IEMs, or if you're new trying to get into the audiophile world, this is where I'd say you might want to start. At least get the hang of using IEMs, see what a single 10mm dynamic driver has to offer before you start getting into multiple drivers. And I really think it's good to just always test out as many of your options as you possibly can. So, again, I think the price point is going to be very intriguing for a lot of people. As far as actually using them themselves, the IEMs are very lightweight, and I'm a huge fan of the see-through look that these have, although they have a darker color. You mix that with the cable that they've included, which is a silver foil shielded copper cable. It does use a 2-pin connection, so this is detachable from the IEMs itself. The connection on the other end is just a simple 3.5mm angled connection. It doesn't come with a 1/4-inch plug or adapter, so if you're going to be using these in certain amps or home theater systems that use that 1/4-inch plug-in, you are going to need an adapter for that. But it does work in anything that has a normal headphone jack. It is very easy to drive. So although I said, if you're going to use it plugged into an amp, this is not necessarily one of those pairs you would have to plug into an amp to actually get really good volume, really good details in the treble, and really good emphasis on the bass. It can get enough power just being able to plug straight into a device. Now the problem is, a lot of phones don't have headphone jacks anymore. In fact, the laptop that I'm using doesn't even have a headphone jack in that. And most laptops do have headphone jacks, so do keep that in mind. You may need an adapter if you're going to use it on your phone. But this, again, will plug into things like normal laptops and tablets. It'll plug into your Nintendo Switch or the Steam Deck. There's still tons of devices that use a normal headphone jack. Now, as far as what all you're getting in the box, like I said, you are getting that detachable cable. It does come with 3 sets of silicone ear tips. There's no pouch, there's no case, and I'm actually okay with this because I think they're doing this to kind of cut down on the overall price of these. So really what you're paying for is just the IEMs itself. And because this isn't like a coiled cable, the cable on these is not very stiff. This is one that's really easy to just kind of wrap up and throw in your pocket. And again, because they're only $19, this is one that you would do that. You wouldn't have to worry that it needs to be in a hard case to be protected all the time. Now, another thing that I do want to point out, and I actually like this choice as well because I am not one that normally likes to take phone calls with my earbuds or IEMs or whatever that I'm using. There is no microphone on these, so there's no mic test here for me to be able to do. But I do want to just go ahead and jump right into the sound, because another thing that it claims on the site and on the packaging is it's using the Harman curve, which is one that's, basically aimed at main consumers, ones that are, liking that punchy bass, that bright treble. This isn't necessarily a pair that's aimed at audiophiles wanting that like flat reference style sound. And this is very true about these. These are not flat, they're not boring, they're not dull. They are definitely emphasized on the low end, but also in the treble. Now, this isn't an overly bright sounding pair of IEMs, but this is not an overly boomy, bass heavy pair of IEMs either. But it's doing just enough to give you that aggressive low end, but also really nice clarity in the details. It does feel like they just kind of left the mids alone. They didn't try to boost them up too much. But because everything else is not boosted or overly boosted, everything sounds pretty natural overall. It doesn't feel like the vocalists get drowned out. If I'm going from something like metal where it's really chaotic or over to pop, where everything's a little bit more simplified. Vocalists, I'm always able to hear clearly. I could be male or female vocalists. I had no issues here. It does feel like I would have liked to have just had them boost the mids just a little bit more to hear more characteristics out of these vocalists. And that's mainly because I'm used to testing out pairs that are costing, $200 to $300 and even more. And again, I have to kind of dial it back and curb my expectations when I'm testing out a pair that's $19. Because really, I do think from a sound standpoint, this may be one of your better options that you're going to be looking at under $100. Now, when it comes to the Soundstage and the sound imaging, this is not a very wide open sounding pair of IEMs. It does do a good job of being able to tell where different sounds are coming from. Just don't expect that wide concert hall sound. It sounds more like having two, main dynamic speakers kind of in a room with you. And it mainly left me feeling like I was in a medium to large size room. So when it comes down to breaking it down and grading these in the different genres that you might be using these with, I think if you mainly listen to pop or hip hop, I would give these a solid 8. And I think that kind of falls in line with the hard rock or metal genre as well. I'd give them an 8 here because I think it does a good job of keeping up with things that are fast. And I think it also does a good job with things that are simplified and making sure that things are emphasized enough that you're hearing and feeling the bass, but also hearing the crash of the cymbals or the synthesizers and everything like that. I don't feel like it lacks when it comes to details. Now, I do think when it comes to vocalists and genres like easy listening, where things are a little bit more geared towards vocalists, this is where I would dial it back and give it a 7. And that's, again, just because I would like to see the mids boosted a little bit more, just because I'm used to hearing certain characteristics or certain details out of male and female vocalists that I didn't feel like these were hitting at all points. And when it comes to using these with media, like movies and videos and gaming and things like that, I would give these a 7 here. And again, this falls back to, things with media, you're going to be focused on dialogue. Again, anything that's more vocal driven. And I just think having that slight boost in the mids would have helped these a ton and bumped up the easy listening and media ratings up to an 8 or possibly a 9. But my overall rating on these is still an 8. And from a value standpoint, this is a solid 9 and probably a 10. I think being able to pick these up for $19 or under $20 makes this as a hell of a bargain. I don't think there's really many things that you're lacking here. I mean, yeah, you're going to give up some accessories like the 1/4-inch adapter or the pouch or the case. And in most cases, you probably already have these anyway, but this is a pair you can throw in your pocket and just not have to worry about. So a lot of that stuff is not very necessary anyway. But this is a very comfortable pair of IEMs. I actually really like the look and the simplicity of the cable, the IEMs itself. I like the see-through look. And this is also a very comfortable pair that you could wear for a long period of time and it doesn't irritate your ears or get uncomfortable. So this is an easy pair to recommend to anybody that's already an audiophile that has their own IEMs. You want something that you can use and not have to worry about your more expensive ones, or somebody that's getting into using IEMs or wanting to use things plugged into an amp. I think this is an excellent pair. Or if you're just looking for something to plug into your Steam Deck or anything with a headphone jack and you don't have to worry about charging them, this, again, it just checks off a lot of boxes that I think a lot of people would be interested in. But guys, that wraps up my video on the Simgot Shark EW100P IEMs. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.